Ready for another deep dive? This time we're looking at fire inspectors. And there's a lot more to it than you might think, I'm betting. We're going way beyond the typical job description this time.
It really is fascinating how this job has changed, even just in the last few years.
Yeah.
Like it used to be, mostly just visual inspections, making sure buildings were up to code. But now you've got all this technology, all these advanced fire detection and suppression systems.
So it's becoming even more demanding, even more
Oh,
complex.
absolutely, yeah.
We got a ton of RoleCatcher resources on this, and it seems like we're really going to be uncovering a lot more than just the basics here. Like, our sources go through the typical day-to-day, the inspections, the regulations, the whole public education side. But it sounds like there's a lot more to it than that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, just think about it. A fire inspector, yeah, they need to know building codes inside and out. But they also really got to be a people person. You got to have some serious communication skills to explain complex regulations, especially, to people who might not be thrilled to hear it. You're dealing with building owners, tenants, sometimes even government agencies. It's definitely people-centric.
Well, and this source even goes so far as to list customer and personal service as, like, the top skills for fire inspectors, which I gotta admit, that's not the first thing that comes to mind when I think fire inspector. So why are those skills so important?
Trust. Plain and simple. Building trust. A fire inspector isn't there just to play gotcha and point out problems. It's about explaining the why behind the regulations. It's about making sure everybody understands what's going on, why it matters. The goal is to create a safe environment for everybody.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to get everyone on board with that.
So it's not just about knowing the rules, but knowing how to actually, like, implement them in a way that gets everyone on the same page.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it.
Interesting. Okay. So the source also goes into the typical career path for a fire inspector. And it's not just about climbing the ladder, but really about developing a bunch of different skills, different kinds of expertise. So what does that career ladder actually look like?
Well, you usually start out as a fire inspector trainee. You're basically learning the ropes, shadowing the more experienced inspectors, getting that hands-on experience with inspections. That's really where you get a feel for the day-to-day.
So there's a real structured path here for someone to start entry level and work their way up.
Yeah, and each step obviously comes with more and more responsibility. So like a fire inspector, they're usually the ones doing those initial inspections, making sure those regulations are being followed. They really get to know the ins and outs of different kinds of buildings. Then you move up to fire inspector 2-us.
Which means, I'm guessing that means more responsibility.
Right. A fire inspector, too, might be leading a team, maybe developing fire safety programs, even mentoring those new trainees coming in. Leadership skills really start to come into play at that level.
So you're not just inspecting buildings anymore, but kind of shaping the department itself at that point.
Exactly. And then eventually you might find yourself as a fire inspector supervisor, and then you're overseeing a whole jurisdiction, setting policies, maybe even working with other agencies. That's huge.
It shows you the potential here, though. Like, you could start your career and end up running the whole show.
Oh, for sure.
What I find really cool is the source actually gave real-life examples of what each of these stages looks like. So you can really picture yourself down the line, like, okay, in 5 years, this is where I could be.
It's helpful for sure. It gives you something concrete to aim for.
And it doesn't have to stop there, right? Like, with experience, certifications, you could become a fire marshal, a fire chief, maybe even go into emergency management.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The possibilities are pretty wide open, which I think is really cool.
Speaking of certifications, there are a lot listed in here. Certified fire inspector, certified fire plans examiner. They even mentioned emergency medical technician.
It's a lot, right. But it shows you how much goes into it. We're not just talking about fire codes here. It's building construction, even a bit of psychology, understanding how people behave in emergencies. And then there's the legal side, the governmental procedures, all that.
It's a much bigger picture than I think most people realize. But even with all that knowledge and experience, you still got to get through that interview. That's where RoleCatcher comes in, right? They've got you covered on that front, too.
They do. And what I like is how they break down common interview questions for fire inspectors. They don't just feed you answers. They get at the why behind those questions,
Yeah, because why does the interviewer even care about this?
Right.
Like, give me an example. What kind of questions are we talking about here?
Oh, they cover things like how you handle difficult building owners. That's a big one. Or how do you prioritize your workload when you're totally swamped? How have you made tough calls under pressure? Things like that. Stuff that reveals your character, how you solve problems, all that.
They want to know you can handle it, right?
Yeah.
That you can think on your feet. It's not just about what's on your resume.
Right, exactly. Can you handle the responsibility? because that's a big part of being a fire inspector. That reminds me of this one time. Oh boy, let's just say I learned the hard way that clear communication with a building owner, it can make or break you. It can
Yeah.
be the difference between a smooth inspection and, well, a total nightmare.
I bet you've got some stories. But, speaking of using technology to get ready for these interviews, we got to talk about RoleCatcher's AI. They call it their secret weapon. And you know what? They might be right. So walk me through this. What's the AI actually doing?
Data. It's all about data analysis. Think about it. RoleCatcher's AI can look at thousands of job descriptions, way more than any human ever could. And it's finding the exact skills, the exact keywords that employers are looking for.
So it's like having a super powered research assistant just combing through job postings for you, like 24/7.
Even better, because it doesn't just stop there. It takes all that data and it helps you rewrite your resume, your cover letter, so you're speaking the right language. Literally, you're matching the keywords that those algorithms are looking for.
See, that's what I always struggled with, just knowing how to highlight the right skills. So the AI helps you actually stand out in that big pile of applications.
Exactly. No more guessing games. It just works. And get this, it goes even further. They're using AI to, get this, predict interview questions, like based on the job description, even your resume.
Wait, hold on. It predicts interview questions. That sounds, I don't know, almost too good to be true. How does that even work? And how accurate is it?
It's wild. Right. Okay, so imagine this. You upload your resume, you upload a job description, right, to RoleCatcher. The AI compares the two, analyzes all the latest industry trends, and boom, generates a list of likely questions. I mean, obviously, it's not a crystal ball. Every interviewer is going to do their own thing, right? But it gives you a huge advantage. You can start thinking about those curveball questions now and walk into that interview feeling confident, prepared.
That would totally calm my nerves. I always get so worked up trying to prepare for every single question, Instead, you focus on the ones that actually matter. I get why people are calling this a game changer. It really is.
Oh, it's huge. It's like having a secret weapon or like a cheat code for your career or something. And then on top of that, RoleCatcher, they even have this feature where you can record yourself answering those questions, the ones it predicts, and then the AI gives you feedback.
Whoa. So it's like having an interview coach right there in your pocket, analyzing how you're speaking, your words, everything.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Helps you polish your delivery, build that confidence. It's amazing.
So we've been talking about the traditional role of a fire inspector, right? But with all this technology, where do you see things going in the future? What skills are fire inspectors going to need, say, 10, 20 years down the road?
The million-dollar question. You know, it's interesting because the sources we have, they talk about the new tech, like those fancy fire detection systems.
Yeah.
But they don't really go into how the job itself might change.
So we're thinking beyond just inspecting buildings with new gadgets here. What else could the future hold?
Exactly. I mean, what if, instead of just using AI for job hunting, what if we used it to actually do the job? What if you had AI-powered drones doing those initial inspections, spotting hazards before a human even sets foot in the building? Or AI creating those, like, super detailed 3D models of a building to help with safety planning?
Okay, now that sounds like something out of a movie. Is that even possible, realistically?
It's closer than you might think.
Yeah.
And the potential is huge. Think about it. It could free up fire inspectors to really focus on the bigger picture stuff. Public education, working with architects to design safer buildings in the first place, maybe even working with software developers to create the next generation of safety tech.
So instead of just reacting to fires, they're actually getting ahead of the game, preventing them from happening.
Exactly. And that takes a whole different set of skills.
Yeah.
Suddenly we're talking about data analysis, advanced problem solving.
Right.
Maybe fire inspectors will need to know how to code. Who knows? It's like this really cool mix of old school skills and cutting edge technology.
It makes you wonder, with technology changing so fast, what kind of new jobs, new specializations will pop up within the field? And that kind of leads into a really important question. If someone's thinking about a career as a fire inspector, what should they be doing now to get ready for all this? What you're describing, it's like a whole new world almost.
It really is. I'd say if you're interested in this field, learn about technology, really dive in. Don't be afraid of new software, of data analysis, any of that. Those skills, they're only going to become more and more important.
Yeah, it's like the whole job description is changing right before our eyes.
And that's what makes it so exciting. This isn't just a job, it's a chance to really make a difference. You're helping people stay safe, you're contributing to your community. You can't beat that.
Absolutely. So for our listeners out there, the ones thinking about this career path, what's the one thing you really hope they take away from this deep dive?
Don't limit yourself to what the job is now. Think about what it could be. That's the exciting part. The future is wide open here, especially with all these new technologies. Embrace that. Never stop learning, and who knows? Maybe you'll be the one designing those AI drones or writing the fire codes for smart cities. It's all possible.
That's a pretty inspiring thought to end on. It's not just about filling a role, but actually shaping the future of the whole profession. And that's something we can all learn from, no matter what we do. So thanks for joining me on this deep dive today. This has been amazing. And to everyone listening, we hope you have a better sense of what it really means to be a fire inspector now and in the future. Keep exploring, keep learning, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.